Coming to you from the dining room table at East Barbary Lane, welcome to a very special edition of Full Circle, the podcast.
I am your host, Charles Tyson Jr.
And I'm your host, Martha Madrigal. Today we're talking about the film Regarding Us. We had the absolute pleasure of watching the film last night, and I had to watch it again this morning because I knew there were pieces I missed. So I put it on my phone so I couldn't play with my phone.
There you go.
And I got so much more. So I have a ton of notes. We have with us one of the writers, who is also the director of this film, David Beck. Welcome to the Full Circle table.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You wore several hats in this film. First of all, you starred in it.
I did.
You're one of the prime characters in this film. Directed and wrote it with Jennifer Bobby.
Yeah, with the great Jennifer Bobby. And I also produced it. I was one of the producers of the film.
Yeah.
It's based on, it's inspired by, I suppose, a short film called Backup Plan that played in film festivals around the world in 2019. And Jennifer Bobby actually played Veronica, the lead role in the short film.
Okay.
And then we decided to, we always had a plan to make it bigger. We had bigger ideas for it. First, it was a TV series that we wrote. But then I could see how to get a feature film produced. And for a TV series, it's very difficult. So I thought, well, why don't we go that route instead? But I think it works pretty well as a feature film. So
I think it
definitely
works beautifully as a feature film. I really do.
Thank you.
Jennifer's character was a hoot. So
yes, yeah, she's quite funny. She's most famous for her character Aunt Barbara. She was the top-selling Tupperware salesperson in all of North America for I think like 5 years in a row or something like that.
Okay.
And ABC did a short documentary on her life in transition, and she was on all the shows selling Tupperware, Good Morning America, The Today Show, all of the morning shows selling Tupperware as Aunt Barbara. So just Google Aunt Barbara, and you'll have many laughs.
I will do that.
I
will do that. So who wrote the short, Jennifer or you?
I wrote the short, but we collaborated very closely just to get like the sense right, and as the lead actress, she had a lot of ideas that she brought to the table. Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk about what the backup plan is? What that reference
Yeah,
is?
so Backup Plan, basically Backup Plan took place in real time. It was a 15-minute short film, and it was the events, I guess, that were like the end of the first act of the film, where my character, Denny, goes as the Shakespeare telegram and delivers the form. But Jennifer always says, well, once you get suicidal ideation in your mind, it's always sort of in the back of your mind. Like it's always sort of an option. So that's
right. It's always on the table.
It's always on the table. Exactly. So that was, it's a backup plan. So in case, something goes awry that you don't feel like there are any options, that, it's sad to say, but that's sort of always on the table, so that's the backup plan,
Right.
And in the film, the little girl, Isabel, played by Andrea Rosa Guzman, she asks Veronica, played by Alexandra Gray in the feature, because she reads her suicide letter. She asks her, what's your backup plan? I want to know what your backup plan is. Which I think is kind of a poignant moment, for a little kid to ask that.
Yeah.
One of many, yeah.
Yeah. And, that's so much throughout this film rings true. I don't particularly care if it's a good film or a bad film. I love this movie, by the way. But my point being, you can see our fingerprints all over everything.
Truth.
When there are trans people involved in telling trans stories and queer people involved in telling queer stories. It's obvious. You feel it, I know that person.
Exactly.
I had trans mothers. I had two of them. Still have one who so influenced my life, and who is the person I know I can run and cry to, or whatever I need. She's there.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, that's why we really wanted to tell an authentic story. And, um, I'm proud that we had trans representation basically on every level, from our executive producer, Martine Rothblatt, our associate producer, Dr. Marcy Bowers, that we were just
Love it.
talking about. And then obviously Jennifer Bobby, our writer director, all the way down to our production assistant, our art production assistant, So, we wanted to tell a true story, and it was inspired. Obviously, it's all about the Catholic Church, and Jennifer and I both went to Catholic school for, all through grade school and high school. So we could draw on those experiences. So we just,
I knew somebody did.
yeah,
I knew somebody
pieces
did.
of our childhood and kind of combined them, meshed them
I spent 13 years in that bad boy, so I understand.
Yeah. It was a lot of lessons there.
To learn and unlearn.
Yes.
And I think they've pushed most of us out, or kept us in the closet in terms of teachers in Catholic school. I had a good friend who also taught my son, who got fired because he had a civil union in New Jersey. He lived in New Jersey and worked in Philadelphia at a private Catholic school. And when marriage equality passed and he could have a marriage, he just kind of went to the principal and said, I'm going to be late for that in-service day. We're picking up our marriage license. And he was summarily fired. It was almost like, don't do this or. And, the thing was, all of the priests and folk around that school were at they had a reception when they civil unioned, because no one knew that there would ever be anything more. And everybody was cool with that, right? I mean, because the queers in Catholic school, you don't have to throw a rock far. And
just look at the theology department.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
And the clergy.
That
And
part.
And, it was like, if you're going to do this, you can't work here anymore. And this is a man who loved that school so much.
Yeah.
He went away to college and came back to teach there. Passionate teacher, everyone adored, and that was the bottom. Like, this is still a Catholic school, So you hit on that.
Yeah, you know what, Martha? I just have to interject because it was so ironic that after we wrote the first draft of the feature, in 2020, at the height of the pandemic, that happened to an English teacher of mine that I had, and he also went to high school there. I'm from Kettering, Ohio, Archbishop Walter High School. He'd been teaching there for 20 years. He got married, when it was legalized, and just was fired just in 2020 after he'd been teaching there for years. Everybody knew he was gay. Nobody cared. I mean,
of course,
even, in 2001.
Right.
And nobody cared, and now all of a sudden people care. It seems like people, certain areas of the country are getting, pretty conservative. I mean, I know they're cracking down on teaching, and you have to sign an agreement about you won't, about abortion, and you won't encourage abortions, and they have to sign their life away. It's insane.
The list of things you can't teach is way longer than the things you can. So it's like, well, what's going to be left?
And, I'm willing to stay out of the decisions of religious schools if they, if the religious will stay out of the decisions of public schools. That would be my preference. I guess if you want to discriminate and this is the way you want to do it, and, this is your bottom line, that's been the argument. And I guess fine. We were talking before we started to record. We just had Nico Lang here for a week. And the first event that we did was a Tuesday evening. And I did it very intentionally in a UU church that is local to here. Because it doesn't get much more liberal, I think, or more open, because you can be an atheist and go to a Unitarian Universalist church, right? And I called several of the churches that I know are affirming all year long. Because regardless of my personal beliefs or where I stand, I know how important that is for a lot of us. And a lot of us are just trying to heal and trying to find that relationship and that connection again. And the evening was supposed to be about community, right? And I mean, I'm a counselor. Whatever works for you, that's where we're gonna go. I liked the way it was handled. You know, I think that Alexandra did an amazing job portraying the conflict, right? The betrayal, and sort of the ultimate reunification with her faith, but not that church.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think it was a fascinating character because it's someone who sort of holds on to her faith, you know, despite the persecution and the discrimination. And it's like, well, I know the difference between faith and spirituality and religion, you know, and faith is personal. It's, you know, something that man cannot touch, you know, it's something sacred that's just between me and my higher power. And
Yeah.
I love that, I mean, she sort of, in a way, was the wisest in the movie and the sanest person in the movie. You know, we all were kind of quirky, crazy characters, kooky characters, you know, including the kids. And she was just this this core, you know, stable force, the sense of calm in this world. And that's what really drew me to the story and to the project. You know, that's the story we wanted to tell. So yeah, because I
Well,
think a lot of times as LGBTQ people, we're kind of once we come out as whatever we are, we're almost obligated to uh, you know, throw that away. You know,
right.
not just the religion, but like everything. And I think, you know, it's a delicate conversation, but you know, there is a huge difference between spirituality and religion.
Oh
And
yes.
a lot of people enjoy the ritual of Catholicism or religion, you know, the sacraments, you know, the choir, you know, that was a big thing in the movie, like singing in
Mhm.
the church choir and participating, you know, in the community. And it's like, what are we going to do? We're not welcome, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
It's the cadence of it all. Like, you know, that's one of the things I always loved about Mass was the cadence. You know, I knew what was coming next. It was almost meditative
Yeah.
for me to be there. It's why a lot of folks I know are Episcopal now, because they're actually welcome there. They're actually invited in, as opposed to we just don't talk about you.
Yeah. I mean, I played the
Mm.
piano and I played the piano all through grade school and high school and Catholic mass, and I enjoyed it because I got out of school a little early, so I could rehearse and you know,
Mm.
and
That's
I
fair.
loved it. I loved doing it. But then now I play for an Episcopal church that's, you know, all affirming and welcoming, and it's great.
Right.
And they've never said anything that I, you know, really have been horrified by. You know, sometimes they have pastors who I don't agree with everything, but like, you know, they're welcoming. And that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. It really is. Yeah, I don't know what to say about the Catholic Church. They need to get with the times. I mean, you know, they need to let priests marry at least for one. And
Well,
That would
here's
eliminate
the
so many
thing.
problems, I think.
Here's part of the one layer of the hypocrisy, by the way, because my kids went to a Ukrainian Catholic school, right? And their priests, they're kind of Eastern Orthodox, I guess, in the way that they practice Catholicism, recognized by the Roman Catholic Church. Their priests marry.
yeah,
Their priests are allowed to marry, and they still, you know, participate in the sacraments, and those sacraments are honored. So it's like you've got these offshoots that are not really, and it's perfectly fine. But the Roman Catholic Church still says no. We need women in leadership roles too, but
we definitely do.
yeah. So I mean, that's the Episcopal Church seems to be what is it? All of the pageantry and none of the guilt. So, yay.
Yeah,
Yay.
absolutely. I mean,
Which makes sense why so many queer folks would gravitate that way.
Right? The priest still wears a dress. It's just,
yeah.
not the same, and they're allowed to be married and they're allowed to have lives. And so
Well, I
you
think it's
have
like, they're human beings, right? They have desires, they have
Mhm.
needs, they maybe want a family, and it's like we put them on a pedestal that in a way that they're untouchable, that they're more godly than another person. And I think we're realizing as a community, as a global community, that we're all the same. We're all equal. We have to stop idolizing these people who are somehow untouchable, and we're finding that out everywhere. I mean, not just with our spiritual leaders, but with celebrities, with obviously our politicians, with everyone. I mean, we're all human beings, and I think that there's no secrets anymore in our world because we know everything now. We have all this information that everything's
Right.
coming out. So whatever you do, it's going to come out somehow, just because of
Right.
the global society we live in now. And it's like we all just have to be more forgiving and loving and more compassionate to each other.
And how many more examples do we need of the fact that repression breeds harmful behavior?
Mhm.
Like A equals B. It's a direct correlation.
One of the things that really struck me is this felt very much like a collaboration. I felt the village involved in this film just watching it, right? And of course, reading the credits, I'm like, okay, there's Marcy Bowers, and the acting was brilliant and all of that. But talk to me about bringing this together. How did you take it from the short to this? This is a brilliant movie.
Thank you so much. I mean, my belief for filmmaking and directing is that it is a collaboration, and that it doesn't matter who has the idea. If it's a good idea, let's do it.
Right.
And we wanted Alexandra to feel like she had a voice. She was a producer on the film, and I
Right.
thought that was very important because she's, carrying this film. And I really, I just, I knew we had a bigger story to tell than the short.
I'm going to check it out on Amazon Prime because I want to see the genesis, that led to the full film.
And I'm a completionist, so now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, there's something else that's involved. I got to watch that too.
Now I have to.
Yes, and the little girl in it, Valeria Cotto, she was actually one of the little girls in the Florida Project, that film, the Ryan Baker film, which is
Oh
a
wow.
brilliant film.
Okay.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe. I believe he was nominated for an Oscar for that performance. But it's about the homeless camps outside Disney World in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And she was the little girl. She played Isabel, but now she's like a teenager. She's like 16, so she was too old to be
Oh
in the
wow.
film.
Okay.
But we were very excited about the kids we cast. Actually,
They were brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Who played Isabel? Andrea?
Her name is Andrea Rosa Guzman. It's her very first screen project film. She's never done film or television before.
She's a natural.
She's a natural. She had a voiceover job at a Disney cartoon for Disney Plus about kindergarten. I think it's called Kindergarten.
Okay.
But she sings and does crazy voices on that show, and she's such a talented.
She's got a beautiful voice. She sang with you.
Yeah, she did.
And at one part in the film, and we get to hear her voice.
Yeah, she's very talented. She's performing in the Nutcracker right now.
I love her.
She dances too.
So
Of course she does. Triple threat.
she dances
Triple threat.
too. A trifecta, yes. But we got delayed filming so many times, and we were 15 days out. We were supposed to film of the summer of 2022. We couldn't. We lost funding. We were not able to secure like the funding we needed, which we thought was a guarantee, and we had to postpone filming by a year, basically.
Mhm.
And I said, you know what? Let's just keep the kids we have because they're so great, and let's just pray that they don't, have a growth spurt,
Right.
Right.
and let's just make them a year older. So they were originally in the third grade now, and they're in the fourth grade. But it worked out
Okay.
because I had time to work with Andrea just one on one, and just she and her mom and I would meet several times throughout the year, and just we would just work on, just relaxing on camera and just getting comfortable and building a relationship, and so that was just really really helpful for the film. I don't know if we would have gotten the performances we were able to capture if we had filmed in 2022. So everything
Right.
works out
See?
for a reason.
I believe it
Exactly.
does. And, for me, fourth grade rang true, because ugly, I, bullied, I was really bullied in school. Didn't start until kind of the end of third grade,
Yeah,
much more so in fourth grade.
Same,
That's where
actually.
kids get mean. I mean, that's just where it
that's
starts.
true. I mean, it just makes a lot more sense, fourth grade, because you're about to hit puberty. A lot of kids, and a
Hmm.
lot of kids are still like very kid. So it's like the change, happens. Yeah, so it all works out.
It does. It does.
Going back to what you said, Martha, about the authenticity of the film, yeah, that's something that I was thinking about for sure. And that comes from, us telling our own stories, because each of these characters in different hands could easily be tropes.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, starting with our main character, if this were any other Hollywood film, Veronica would have been like, the magical Negro. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, comes in to solve everyone's problems and show them the error of their ways, and then disappears. You know what I mean? But it she was a flawed character as well, and no one felt like, everyone felt real. Everyone felt like someone that I would have met. Like, your character reminded me of me when I was hustling as an artist, as a professional artist. It's, I'm going to do everything I can in front of everyone that I can until someone says, "Oh, here, let me give you a bag full of money for this thing that you're doing on the corner." Like, I knew these people.
You did a great job presenting both a human and a marginally bad actor. You,
I know, thank you. I kind of kick myself in the foot sometimes seeing those clips. I'm like, oh God, they're so bad. Like, what was I doing casting myself as a bad actor? But
I loved it. You did it well. You did it well. The character was lovable and approachable and real.
And you got to be a good actor to be a bad actor on purpose.
Right.
that's
And
true. That's true.
the other thing I'm going to say is that the storylines are queer stories. They just are.
Right.
You know, there are not that many cis people that can identify, cis het people who can identify with, losing their job, losing their home because of who they are. That doesn't happen. It's not a cis het story. The way, the interplay between the man that played your husband and you, felt real.
Mm-hmm.
It did feel real. And your reaction. So we see him not be there. He's absent, and you're trying to make up for it with the kid and tell the kid it's okay. He's in France. And then you
Yeah,
got the kid in school going, no, he's not. I saw him making out with some Asian dude around the corner. Your dad's not in France.
yeah. He's a very sweet man. Eliud Garcia Kaufman. He plays my husband Adrian, and
Hmm.
we. I just fell in love with him. I loved him because he really brought a sense of humor to that role. And he's also, very believable as a scientist, as a doctor,
Hmm.
and he's actually a family man. He's married to his husband, and he has twins and kids, and that are growing up. So he really identified a lot with the character. And he said the one thing that he didn't understand was why, he left. Like what? Like how could someone leave their kid like that? But I mean, it happens. It happens all the time. We all know that people cheat, people go out, and
Yeah.
then they come back. And I wanted. I mean, I don't want to ruin the ending of the movie, so I won't. But
Right.
No.
I wanted it to be hopeful and inspiring, and I hope that like straight people see it. I hope that cis heteronormative, whatever you call people, see it, because it is for a mainstream audience,
Right.
and we wanted to have that sense that these topics, although they are serious and important, we touch them on a light note, and there's humor throughout. I think every scene has at least one, laugh out loud joke in it.
Right.
And we want people to enjoy it as entertainment, and maybe, get something out of it, or, experience these lives of people that they might not know in real life. Um, so,
And I wanted to thank you, by the way, because this touches on some really important subjects and it grapples with some important stuff, and it includes children, and our interactions with children. And it's not tragedy porn.
Thank you. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Thank you for not doing that. Thank you for not taking it there. Because that is what happens when we're written and directed about by people who don't know us. Nothing made me more angry. I'm just going to say this every time we talk about a film.
I'm thinking.
Than when Brendan Fraser stood up and told us that The Whale was not a queer story. It was a universal story. No, honey. No, it wasn't. And the fact that you don't know that is the problem. And that's why we need to tell our own stories. And it resonates in such a different way. Because, if you're going to throw some camp in there, and you did.
we definitely did.
It's got to ring true, though. It's got to be like, yup, I know them. And, yup, that would happen.
Right.
And when he went, and your paella?
Right.
That, perfect. And I'm like, yes, that would have happened.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, that I consider that a huge compliment. So, yeah, I mean, it was just the people involved. It's a matter of the people involved and the talent you choose, and whether they can bring something. Not that straight people can't play gay characters. I don't think that's true. But I think that in certain films, I think it is important for authentic representation. And I think certainly, I mean, the trans experience, like, we don't know enough about that as a society, for, I think, a cisgender person to play a trans person at this time in
I agree.
our lives. I mean, we still need to learn and be educated, and maybe one day we'll get there, but I don't think we're there right now at all. Yeah.
And thank you for saying that.
Right.
Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't think, like, a straight person should be playing like Harvey Milk or, James Baldwin either. But I mean, so I think, there's more flexibility with gay roles, in my
And yet,
opinion, but it's still, it's art.
well,
Right.
But minimally,
Yeah.
someone with, some editorial control or some directorial control needs to be of the family we're talking about, because just that presence, and again, not just the person getting coffee, but somebody who can say, wait a minute, that doesn't ring true. It just doesn't. I remember we went to what is it called when it's a play? It's not a screener.
Oh, a preview?
Preview. It was very much asking for feedback, and it was by invitation. It was, an honor to be there, and we loved the actress. It was a one-woman show. Anyway, I could tell a man wrote it, and that was my feedback. A woman would not have focused where this went. A woman would not have said these things. And the director went, that's really important. And, the writer, because a man wrote it, and a historian and good storyteller, but you needed some collaboration there. And, I see that time and time again, and especially if you're going to touch on our stories, because they do need to be told.
Absolutely.
But we have to be involved in the telling. Yeah. Alexandra did a gorgeous job. She really did.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm so proud of her, but I am. I'm so pleased with just her performance. And I was so nervous casting this role because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a little bit controversial at first, because it was like, well, why does she have to be Catholic and all this? But then Alexandra, like when she read the script, she just got it, and she understood it, and I mean, she brought such great ideas to the story that helped drive the story home, and like it was her idea. I don't know if you remember the moment where Isabel gives her the cross back.
I do. Oh,
That was
absolutely.
her
I do.
idea. That wasn't in the original script, and she was like, "What if she gives me like the cross back at the end of the scene?" And it's like, it's like she kind of, and I thought that was such a great thing, and I was like, "Yes." But yeah, yeah, she was great, and she looks great. I mean, and it's just like she just goes through so many journeys and arcs, and she's just so vulnerable, and she just let us capture it. So
Well, and one of the things that she portrays so brilliantly is the resilience
Mm-hmm.
of our community. And, when there's no one else to turn to, going back to the elders, going back to the moms.
Can you get out of my head? I was going to say that.
Yeah. And Jennifer Bobby is playing Ruthie and feeding her. And there's a ham and potatoes and a cake and cupcakes. And by the way, I have leftover Parmesan.
I love that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes. And Shandy Moore is the trans mother,
Yes.
who is a huge. She lives in LA, but she's a huge AIDS activist, and and she works. She's an ambassador for the Elizabeth Taylor Foundation or for AIDS activism, and she's amazing. Just an amazing soul, and I'm so happy that we premiered in LA, so she was able to attend the world premiere. But we just had so much fun that day shooting. It's one of my favorite scenes when she sings her the
Yes.
gospel hymn, and she's like, "You got church right here," and I love that because it's true.
I wrote that down. I wrote that quote down.
Yeah.
You've got church right here.
Yeah, we don't have to go to a building, a cold, empty building where no one welcomes us, to get that type of nourishment. We go where we're welcome and where we're loved, because that's what it's all about. It's about love and welcoming.
Well, that's what, going back to that feeling of authenticity from us telling our own stories, because of the fact that, this was not just about the bad things that happen to the queer and trans characters, which would be might be the story in other hands. I feel like this film was really about the vital need that we have as queer and trans people for chosen family, because it's the chosen family that has your back. And yes, we might lose a job, lose an apartment, but that happens, but we have community and we have chosen family there to like catch us and pick us up and help us get back on our feet. And that's the real meat of it, I think, that we have each other's back. We are a community. It's not just about the things that happen to us. It's about the us.
Yeah.
Yes, regarding us.
Regarding us.
Regarding us. And I loved it. And holding us in regard was the way I took that title as well. Like, okay, this works a couple ways. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly.
There was even that moment where your character says, I know where I went wrong. And your character never does leave. But it's that day you asked me to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and you said not in front of all the straight people. That's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
I mean, that happened to me, with my partner of 10 years. I mean, it's like you feel the shame as out and proud as you are. Sometimes you get into a situation and all of a sudden you're back in the closet. You feel like, and I mean, I don't know, like I guess because of the way I appear or the way I look, and I'm in around certain people, and I hear comments people say about trans people, about women, about, and because they think, oh, I'm just one of the guys, even though I'm definitely not,
Right.
it's just I'm disgusted. I'm just I can't believe what comes out of people's mouths sometimes when they think they're around, friendly company.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's outrageous.
It is.
Yeah.
And I get it sometimes when, I'm in an all-white space and racism rears its head and
Yeah.
I was just like, come on now. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It's like we don't have time for this anymore. It's like we have to get our act together, When are we gonna learn?
when are we going to learn? Indeed. Sometimes fish can fly. Where did that theme come from? Who introduced the idea?
That's also connected from the short film, Sometimes Fish Can Fly. And I just thought, some people kind of parallel it to like Jesus, like the Jesus fish.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, that's, open to interpretation. But I just thought sometimes, there are, we have, well, what do you think it means? What, I mean,
Well, I mean, there are flying fish that,
yeah,
just jump really high and whatever. Like there are. We have a brewery called Flying Fish.
yes.
That, you know, put me on the spot. The idea, the idea that, in nature, everything doesn't operate exactly the way, we want it to be so binary. We want it to be so clear. Fish swim, that's all they do. But that's not exactly how it works. And that's what I feel like it points to. That, that idea, if you just kind of open your mind a little bit and understand we're real, because that's, I say time and time again, that's our real fight, as trans people. That is, the fight is that we exist. We need to stop arguing about the fact that we exist. Regardless of what your religion might say about me, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Existing, and I'm going to be transing through this entire administration, whatever the fuck happens. Like that's I'm not going back. So it's going to be what it is. And that's why these stories become that much more important. As we have an entire party legislating against our existence and the idea of us and talking about us, certainly always without us, and even in the times when we're allowed into their chambers to speak, most of them don't show up. The other ones sit on their phones, and then they vote the way they were going to vote anyway. It is dehumanizing, and that's exactly what it's designed to be. So, when a movie comes along and shows our humanity, shows that in the face of something really hard, losing one's job because of who you are, and of course, everything that goes along with that, right? And still we are resilient, and still we go back to the people who have nurtured us, and we find our strength again, and we find our faith again, and even in the shit that was going on with her, it's like, okay, you need a babysitter, I need something to do, and I love this kid. I love the way that story worked. In some ways she was the magical element, but not
Right.
to the degree, but
exactly.
But we often are. That's why some cultures celebrate us.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you are magical creatures, and we wanted to make sure that it
Thank
wasn't like
you.
a white savior movie, and that the kid didn't
Mhm.
save Veronica. She saved. Her faith saved her. She saved her. Self. Um, and I think we accomplished that. Hopefully,
Oh, definitely.
we were very aware of that though,
Uh,
because of past films that have been popular. Uh,
right.
but yeah, I love that explanation of the fish. That's exactly.
Okay, good.
Yes, well done.
Good.
Gold star.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hudson Paul was brilliant.
Yeah,
However, this child winds up identifying, there had to be some brilliant direction involved. There had to be some, because I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt that child's responses and, the tension between mother and child. I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
When we see, when Isabel innocently pulls out the picture and mom knows, because mom's been having this argument with her child,
yeah,
that this child just depicted themselves as female in their drawing. And it was that look of disgust, like you keep doing this to us. And wow, this kid was good and captured so much
Yeah.
of the fear, of the dread, of the I have to stop now. I lived that. I lived it. You know, puberty was that moment where it's like, you got to put this shit away now. You got to stop because, you know, the violence is only going to escalate. It's for your safety that you stop this girl nonsense.
I appreciate
you
you
know,
saying that. Yeah. Hudson Paul is an amazing actor, and I'm sure he identifies as a cisgender male.
okay.
And he's just, I'm sure he has a amazing acting career ahead of him. He's done a lot of TV as well. I think he just had a guest starring role in Blue Bloods, where he plays a totally different character.
Okay.
He's like a shooter or something, but so he's
Oh,
quite a
damn.
chameleon. But I
Alabama.
I was so I know I was so worried about I was so nervous about casting this role, and we cast. I mean, we auditioned all kinds of different kids, non-binary, cis,
Mhm.
um, and just I mean, Kyle. I call him Kyle, but Hudson's tape just blew me away. And when we met him in person, and then he auditioned with his older brother, Jacob Moran, who played Matt. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I knew they had just the family resemblance, especially with Abigail Hawke, who plays Constance, the mother. We all kind of wanted. I wanted them to be sort of like an all-American, quote unquote family.
You did that. Yeah.
All the other families in the movie are, all very different, looking. So I thought,
Right.
let's get
Right.
them sort of like, and it works out, and just Kyle brings such a sensitivity to the role. And I mean, of course, we worked with him, and the parents were amazing too, because when you're casting a kid, you're also casting the parents. And
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
he comes from a family of artists, and his older brother is a filmmaker.
Oh, so they get it.
So they get it. Yeah, they really got it. I was really nervous because we had actually a couple of kids who backed out of the callback because the parents actually read the script
Oh, okay.
and the material, and they were like, "Oh, I don't think so. This is not for us."
Not my baby.
So yeah, I get it. I get it. And there's no sense in trying to persuade them.
Right.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Because it's not. Yeah.
Because you would not have had the quality you had here.
Yeah.
This was a young actor fully committed to the role.
Yeah.
Whoever did gave those prompts and worked with this child got it. They got it. And I felt it.
Thank you.
I was right there with Kyle. And I had an older brother who encouraged me to suicide. I had that older brother. So it was like, oh my God, like, how did you, so many of these moments that were like, real.
I love that you saw, Martha. You saw yourself as Alabama, and like, but even like older gay men have said, I saw myself as Alabama. And
Right.
I mean, we don't put a label on Alabama. Like, they could grow up to be, maybe gay or trans or whatever,
Or
But
non-binary. Right.
I think that's important to leave it open. And I don't know, like I love that at the end, because you don't really know what happens to that family. They disappear,
And that's real.
and Isabel at the end of the letter, she says, I always pray for you and your family, Alabama.
Right.
Do the prayers work? And that always makes me tear up, because it's like,
Yeah.
well, we as the audience don't know if the prayers work, but hopefully we have faith that they do work, and hopefully Alabama will be safe, and be the person that they're, meant to be. So we hope that happens for Alabama.
Yeah. But that struggle is captured, that struggle of, who we're told we are, and needing to obey, in some way. And that absolute feeling of, I'm betraying my family by existing, just by existing in the way that I do, and incorrectly human, right? That right there. And it was portrayed with sensitivity and brilliance and just the interaction of the adults with the kids, because that's the reality of how we do interact with children. Many of us are parents, some of the best parents I've ever fucking met. And, we do connect with children in brilliant and loving ways. And, that pedophile moniker that they like to chase us with while they're the ones actually doing that, has always been sickening. And this does a great job of showing the ways that, kids thrive with queer and trans parents. They do.
Yeah.
They do. And I saw that, that was portrayed. It was obvious. And it was also obvious what does happen, among religious people. I thought it was interesting, actually, that it was a Catholic mother and not an evangelical mother, for instance. Because that's so common there. Because I know Catholics who, kind of hold on to some of that, but are very trans and queer affirming. So,
Yes.
Because the people, I once had one of my therapists say, you Catholics think religion is a cafeteria. And you can justify almost anything. You just you're walking down, you're like, have some of this, don't have some of that. Of course I'm going to be on the pill, but I'm not going to tell anyone, like that kind of thing. And that was the first time anyone had ever phrased it like that to me, that some of us actually grapple with real human issues and really try to come to this place of what love is supposed to be and what, love thy neighbor is supposed to be. And this was a queer, ordained minister who did a lot of teaching. And it pulled me up short and I went, I never looked at it that way because I was busy at the cafeteria. Yeah.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, being in Catholic school for 13 years, I felt so much love from so many nuns, growing up. And I had some of the best teachers I've ever had were Catholic nuns.
Oh, yeah.
I'll never forget Sister Dawn in the 6th grade. She was an amazing, she taught math and religion. And I learned so much. We learned how to read the Bible. Like she said, fundamentally, never read the Bible fundamentally. It's the worst way to read the Bible. And you said you read it critically,
Right.
Good for her.
And that's, yes. Although I do remember we were learning about the 10 Commandments and the sins, and I just try to remember homosexuality, mortal sin. I'll never forget her big bubble cursive, beautiful handwriting. So that cracks me up to this day. But
yeah.
So it's a mixed bag, but it's like you take what I mean. I guess I'm a cafeteria Catholic too, but you take what you want, what works for you. But yeah, there's so much love, and I don't know. One person did say, "Oh, you're just bashing Catholics in this movie," and they were rather upset. But I wanted to, especially with Abigail Hawke's character, the character of Constance, because I guess she could be perceived as a villain. But the only note that I gave her was that she loves her kids. She loves her kids, and she does everything because she loves them. And even if she acts out of fear or ignorance, it's because she loves her kids. And I wanted that to be clear.
There's love there.
Yeah, because those, I mean, that comes from personal history, of Jennifer and me, and we wanted to make sure that was captured. So because we know that your parents love you, no matter what they do, and it's important. They do their best.
They do their best. That's a place I try to get folks. They did their best. Doesn't mean they did it good, but they did their best. That's and nobody sets out to be a shitty parent or a hateful one. But it happens. There were just so many themes. I'm not gonna ruin the end, but I loved the way it ended, the things that resolved and the things that didn't. There was, triumph in the end.
Yeah.
Some things that, were left there. We don't know.
And that's life.
Which is what a film is, right? A moment in time. Everything doesn't always resolve, but we tell a story. And this story was one of resilience. And, going back to that idea, it's always on the table, that is true. Not just of queer and trans people. You know, I know plenty of misfits in this world, plenty of folks who struggle with mental health, for whom it's also like, you know, it's not that I want to die, but I need a lot of this shit to end, and I'm working on it. But yeah, always on the table. And that's real. You know, it's just a real part of the existence of somebody who's had a lot of trauma and seen a lot of stuff, and for whom things have not always gone well. You know, so I followed it. I followed the theme. I thought it was brilliant. And again, I saw our people. I saw the people I know and interact with every day represented. We're not perfect, God knows, but the love that we do share, and I think sometimes better than anyone, comes through. Bravo.
Thank you so much. Well, that means a lot to me. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Very much, very much. How do folks access this film?
Good question.
Thanks.
It is now available for pre-order on Apple TV
Great.
and iTunes.
Nice.
You don't have to have a subscription to order it. It's $12.99. And even if you do have a subscription, you still have to order it. It's $12.99.
It's a bargain.
It's available. Yeah, that's the pre-order. And then on January 28th, you'll be able to enjoy it and watch it in the comfort of your own home. And on January 28th, it will also be released on Amazon Prime and YouTube TV, where you can either rent or buy it.
Okay.
And we're hoping that, we're still looking for an exclusive deal somewhere. But yeah, it'll be there for 3 months, and then it'll go to AVOD, which it'll be on Tubi and places like that. Sling TV and places like that. So I hope just we reach as many people as we can with this movie and with this message, and I think that people will really enjoy it. We played in New York for a week at Cinema Village in the East Village, and the audience responses have been amazing. We've gotten a few reviews, and they've all been excellent. So I'm really excited. The screenplay, it was just I don't know who submitted us, but we just they want us to be in the permanent core collection of the library, the Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences.
Fabulous.
So it'll be a little part of cinema history. So that's exciting.
As it should.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So things are going well.
I love it.
Good.
I love it.
What else are you doing, David? What's on your horizon?
Oh, what else am I doing?
Yeah.
Lots of things. Well, we got a couple projects in development. Jennifer and I wrote a series based on her character Aunt Barbara called Time Out with Aunt Barbara, and it's an adult comedy inside children's programming. It's very fun. So we're looking for a home for that. I have a feature film about the last days of the famed composer Pyotr Tchaikovsky.
Work.
Which I don't know if you know much about his life, but he was a big gay man.
Oh yeah.
In 1993 Russia.
Oh yeah.
So,
I knew that part.
it's a beautiful, fascinating psychological thriller from the point of view of his nephew, who's also gay and a morphine addict, and it's a very like Darren Aronofsky-esque picture. So
I'm sold.
It's right up your alley.
It really is.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I have a choreographer attached, Pontus Lidberg, who is a Swedish choreographer who lives in Paris, and he did this thing at the Joyce. I don't know if you go to a lot of dance, but he did this piece at the
choreographer.
Yeah.
Choreographer.
Oh,
yeah.
He did this piece at the Joyce called "The Invention of Rabbits," but it was about the AIDS epidemic, and it like really like broke my heart, and I thought I didn't know what it was about because I didn't read it, and I was just kind of using my imagination, and I thought it was like about addiction because they had these blue balloons and then they became black and they rose them up and then it weighed them down. So I said, oh, it's like addiction, but it was actually about disease, the AIDS crisis, and it was just I have never seen dancing like that, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I'd never wrote a screenplay so fast before. I just got like such inspiration. But that's the beauty of art, right?
And you view dance the way that I do. Like, don't read the program. Take it as it is and see what you get from it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I don't go to dance very often, but my friend invited me, and we were in like the first row. So it was kind of neat. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
But yeah, you take what you get from it. You know, that's I don't like to read critics' reviews before I see movies or plays either. I just like to go with, an open mind and open heart and just
Right, because you don't want to
experience.
start looking for things and being disappointed if what you thought it is, it isn't. And yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, we've refused interviews where the work was bad. Just so you know, where it's like I can't find the words, and I won't trash a fellow queer publicly. I'm not going to do that. But it's just like this needs some help. This film does not. So I was thrilled to talk about it. As we were watching it last night, I'm just like, okay, it resonates. So the characters feel real to me. This is queer storytelling, trans storytelling at its best, and this is what is possible. And I hope it's just the first of many. I hope that's one of the things. I hope, I'm an eternal optimist, comes out of this ugly period, is more of the ability for us to tell our own stories.
Yes.
And portray our own characters.
Yes.
And community members, and tell the stories that matter. And you hit so many places that were important to see, that were important to give voice to. Like I said, the kids interacting with the adults, without preaching. You didn't preach.
Mm-mm.
I hope not. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I know like like, a woman who's trans is a Catholic teacher gets fired from her job, and then it sounds very heavy-handed, I know, and preachy, but it's not at all actually, and that's one of I think the strengths of the film, is that it's very approachable and enjoyable, and you can be laughing and a lot of people were crying. I was kind of surprised, but
Why? Why did
yeah.
that surprise you?
I don't know, because I guess because I want you want people to feel a certain way, or you want to move people, and then it always sort of I'm always kind of surprised when when people say what they took away
They
from it,
like
or
it. They really
yeah,
like
they
it.
like it. I heard like sniffles in the audience and the back. It's hard for me to watch, when we're in front of with an audience.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really because I see like everything that's wrong, or I'm like, well, we could,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
redo that. So
Eventually you just got to let the baby be born.
yeah, you just gotta let it go, and it is what it is.
Yeah, there wasn't a part where I felt like, well, this could go quicker.
No.
I didn't have that moment. I really didn't. And, I fell in love with a lot of the characters. And I have heard similar arguments. Like the principal, was that heavy-handed? I've had that discussion.
Right.
With somebody explaining, my existence to me.
Yeah.
And it can be that insulting and clear. It's a part of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we don't even see it so much because we're so used to it.
Yeah, and that was a conversation we had with. I mean, that's a brilliant actress, Catherine Curtin. She's been on Orange Is the New Black and Homeland. She played a recurring role in
That's where I recognized her from. Orange Is the New Black. Okay.
Yeah, she's a brilliant actress, and she's also in the Saturday Night Live movie, the one that just came out. But and we had that conversation, and I'm like, well, should she be like a little bit compassionate, and we were like, no, let's just make her a total, doesn't care. This is just like, I'm sick of you. I never liked you, and we're done. Because that happens. And yeah.
There was, I had this moment, and this is one of the reasons I rewatched it, because in my initial watch, I thought it was never clear why she got fired. Like, how did this blow up? How did who she is as a trans woman come about? Then I kind of started to feel like the neighbor had something to do with it, or at least the neighbor caught on. And in watching it the second time, I realized it doesn't matter. It actually, it does not matter to the story. The point is, it can happen. And,
Mhm.
as good as we might be at what we do and as much as we may thrive, it can be taken away like that, like, oh, dumb, stupid me. I worked for a Catholic school
Right.
and
Yeah,
dared to
that's
exist.
interesting that you said that, because I was like, we need to be more specific about how she's outed, or how, like, who tells on her, who does she confide in someone, or is it a disgruntled parent? And Jennifer kept saying it doesn't matter. It's not germane to the story. It's not about that, because
Right.
She's absolutely right.
then people will make it about that. Yeah, and so that's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. We did not need a specific villain there. We didn't need that again.
Exactly, because then it would be about that and that person, and
Right.
we don't want to put the focus on that.
Right. And so what it does is, it shows the aftermath. It shows that these things are possible. Our lives can be upended and fully beyond our control. And it has happened. And, that is too often possible where, we don't necessarily get the benefit of a doubt. Yeah. So again, it's queer storytelling, but it doesn't devolve into tragedy. It doesn't devolve into, this like beating drum of you got to be nicer to trans people, because you probably won't be. It's like, and we know it. And so, but we keep going.
Yeah. I mean, there are sadly a lot of tragic stories, about trans people and queer people, and those
Yeah.
stories are important too, and told. But yeah, we wanted to keep it. We wanted to end on a hopeful note,
Mhm.
and just have it be real life. And I mean, the my favorite experience, the thing with this whole experience, is I met so many brilliant, amazing trans women through this experience, like Martine Rothblatt, Marcy Bowers, and so many people who ended up not contributing to the film, but like I just learning about them, and
Right.
they're, I mean, no one's a monolith, obviously, and there are assholes in every
Oh,
community,
please.
but
Oh yeah.
I could introduce you to several.
yeah, they're just so brilliant and kind, and just they think outside the box, and it's just like they have ideas, and I'm like, let's listen,
Yeah.
because
Thanks.
if you're forced to live in like a different way than other people, then obviously you have to think smarter, and you have to think differently, and maybe we can learn, like, as a mass society from these people.
Indeed.
Thanks. Because, yeah. I,
I mean, you're forced to be resourceful. You have to be resilient. You have no choice, right?
That
kinda.
part, yeah.
Kinda. And, that's not always true. And we do have young people who have had it easier. This particular last 10 years or so has not been so easy. But levels of acceptance have been different. So we've been able to raise some brats. Referencing again American Teenager, like there's a couple of kids. Yeah, there's a trans kid with enormous privilege who's never, she's heard the stories, but that's not her life at all. That's not her life at all.
Yeah.
She goes to this wonderful liberal school in California where, there's 200 kids in the GSA. Everybody's queer.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the people. I mean, I was born in '83, but I think about the people who came before me, the queer men and women and trans people that just broke down so much and suffered so much and fought. And it's just like we wouldn't be where we were without the people who came before us.
And that, you know what? Thank you for that. Because that was the other thing I wanted to mention. That for many of us, our lives are intergenerational. We don't just live amongst people who are our age. I work with a lot of younger people. There have been children in my life for my whole life. And I turn to the elders often. Some of my best friends are in their 70s.
Yeah.
So we have such a mix of folks. And that's captured too. That,
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I didn't even think of that, but I guess it's true. I mean, I guess as an actor and someone from the theater and film, it's like you become a family whenever you're in a play. And One of my
Oh
best
yeah.
friends is a 93-year-old, Jewish woman, grandma, and she's one of my best friends. I talk to her every day, and then
Mhm.
I'm friends with kids and people in their 20s, and I get, yeah, I love that, and I like that the gay couple, like I'm a little younger and he's a little older, but that's
Mhm.
very common, in the
Yeah.
gay community, and it's not like a thing that like people talk. They're like, "Oh, he's so much older than you." I remember a family member who saw the movie was like, "Oh, he's an older man," and I didn't even think of it. I was like, "Oh, I guess he is."
Right. But
But yeah,
it's makes perfect sense. Again, how many couples do we know? I'm older than him.
yeah.
It happens.
Yeah,
It's,
and I think, I mean, she's not gonna get mad at me saying this because she said this before, but, like, Jennifer and I are from different, generations,
Mhm.
and I think that works as a writing team because that doesn't happen.
I
Um,
imagine Jennifer and I are closer in age. So
Jennifer's Gen X, she's
me too.
50. I don't know how old she 50 something?
I just turned 59, so just for
Oh,
reference.
happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Made it this far. Made it this far. I want to thank you so much for your time. Please let us know what's happening and when you do more because we would love to talk to you again.
This was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you for watching the film and for, you know, this extensive interview. It doesn't happen
Of
very
course.
often. So I
I
We're
know, but
officially fans.
that's what we do. And thank you so much for creating this film.
thank you.
I think it's more important than you realize yet. I do. And I was an honor to watch it. So thank you so much,
My pleasure.
David Beck, for your time and your skill and this beautiful film. And please send our love to Jennifer because, wow, the two of you really created something amazing.
I definitely
Indeed.
will. Yeah, I know she's very sad for not being here. So
I would love to meet her someday.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will.
I am Martha Madrigal,
And I am Charles Tyson Jr.
and you've been listening to Full Circle,
The
podcast. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Full Circle is a Never Scared Productions podcast, hosted by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal, produced and edited by Never Scared, executive produced by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal. Our theme and music is by the Jingleberries. All names, pictures, music, audio, and video clips are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective copyright holders.